Lieutenant Kristen's right. We've grown to love you. In fact, it's so evident by the way that we're at home celebrating when one of you has a huge milestone in their lives. And the same thing happens as we mourn when something bad happens to all of you. And it's just like that. And man, God really weighed this message on my heart today. It was so emotional going in and out. A friend of mine, a mentor, my first sponsee when I was in the Adult Rehabilitation Center, I mention him often. He was the guest speaker on the Salvation Army's territorial podcast, and he told his testimony. And man, I don't know if it's the way they edit it, or maybe he did like 90 tries, but it just felt like I was right back there again. And it reminded me of how surreal it was to go through all of this. It was me coming from Ohio, broken, a felon, an atheist, going into this center, and this revival just breaks out. And out of this line, this rare thing happened. This kid named Ryan goes and he answers the call to officership, and he sponsors this kid named Krista Borowitz, who then goes to officership, but he sponsors me first. And it's just this chain that just kept happening. And I was like, man, that was a powerful time. But also this week, I got a call from somebody that we did it with who passed away, who overdosed in his mother's house. And I remember going, oh man, I loved Pete. Like, he would hit all the meetings with us. He was part of the crew, you know. And it reminded me of another guy who was supposed to be what we called the next man up. His name was, we call him J-Mac for short. But he was supposed to follow my sponsee into training. It was supposed to be this train where whenever you leave, you raise up the next to come, right? And my corps officer at the time was hiring us all at the church, and he found out he got moving orders where the Salvation Army moves officers, and he was like, you're going to go, I'm going to set you guys all up so you'll have this job, so when I leave, you'll be the next man up. But something happened with J-Mac, and he kind of quit on the promise. He was sick of the waiting. He was sick of wondering, why is this taking so long? Everybody seems to have moved on, and I'm just stuck here. And it got me wondering, why do people quit on the promise? Why do people stop early before God works these miracles? And I'll tell you why. It's because our perspective gets blocked. God uses these waiting times to strengthen our faith, because if everything happened quickly, we might be tempted to give ourselves the credit. But a promise from God is as good as done. But there are things that we can do to cut that promise short. I mourn and I hurt for J-Mac. I remember I was his cadet sponsor when he came up to the training school to see us, and I walked him through everything, and he was so on fire that day. And I'm wondering what happened between that day and the day when he finally just gave up. So I want to start with, I'm going to go through Joshua. So I ask you, if you got your Bibles, you can open it up to Joshua 1. So you got Joshua is just taken over from Moses, right? Moses, who freed all the Israelites, and they were on their way to this promised land. And the Israelites did a J-Mac move, right? Where they thought the promise was just a little too big for them to enter this land, so they got scared, and God says, all right, we'll hang out in the wilderness for 40 years. Moses dies, and then finally Joshua's up. The next man in line, Joshua is ready to lead his people. Right? Joshua 1 verses 1 through 6, it says, "Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land that I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to the great river, all the Hittite counties, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. Because as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give to them." Now this was not another wilderness he was leading them to, right? This was a land that had people in it, right? So these people, he's saying, hey, this is the land, I'm giving it to you, right? And the Canaanites are like, well, you can't give away our land. We live here, right? And God's like, no, this is my people's land. I'm giving it to them, right? So one of the first places God tells them to take possessions of is in the city of Canaan was Jericho. This was one of the first conquering. Jericho, fortified city, right? You can't break through this thing. They are guarded, and more importantly than that, they have a sea that is blocking a part of them, right? So they got walls in the front, walls all around. People can't come from this way, right? And then God says, I need you to go. I'm going to stop the Jordan River from flowing so you guys can cross over and go take care of Jericho. This is going to be the first thing that you guys conquer in your new land, in your new inheritance. Right? So then you got the people of Jericho who see this happen, by the way. This was not like far away and they heard stories, right? They're like, what is going on there? I heard the stories of the Israelite people, and I heard the stories of the miracles they got, right? So they see this happen, and they're like, these people are coming to us, right? So in Joshua 6, it says, the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of the Israelites. They knew they were coming, so no one went out or went in. They locked themselves down. They said, well, we're not opening the gate. We're going to stand guard. There is no way no one's coming into him. And then the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men. Right? When God says he's going to do something, our perspective should be that it's already done. I love that the Lord delivered it in past tense. Right? Look, I delivered it to you. From a blocked perspective, you would say, no, you haven't. We are still outside of the walls of Jericho. And that's how our perspective starts getting blocked, right? We got two ways. You can talk about the first part of that, and that's where many of us, including myself, we get focused on, right? When we hear the promise that God has for us, and we're like, no, the gates of Jericho were securely barred, right? God, you want me to do what? That's impossible. And we forget about the second one where he's speaking in past tense. It's already done. I've already promised it. The setup to the miracle, the insurmountable barrier that God has us questioning, and we question if it's even possible. We think I'm too damaged. I'm too weak for what God is asking of me. I've messed up too much. This is why God reminded me of this passage after what happened to J-Mac. Because I have a habit of also concentrating on the wrong perspective. Because sometimes life just stresses us out so much. where we start to think, are we doing something wrong here? Why does it seem like we are waiting an eternity for what you know God is calling us to do? So then you got God who goes and he tells Joshua, this is how you're going to defeat the city. Verse 3, it says, march around the city once with all the armed men, and do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram's horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast of the trumpets, have the whole army give a loud shout, and then the walls of the city will collapse, and the army will go up. Everyone will be able to go straight in. So the Lord, through a prophet, tells Joshua this is how it's going to defeat. But it never says that Joshua tells the army this, right? So he goes to the army and he says, I want you to start marching around the city. I want you to start marching and marching and marching. I want you to play the ram's horn, right? And when you get done, I just want you to remain silent. That's it. So they do it. And they're like, this is how we're fighting. This is our goal. We're just going to march around, playing the thing, marching these miles every day. And man, the book I read, it was called Sun Stand Still. And he used a reference. He's like, you just picture the like when you get home and you get done with the march and your wife comes up to you and you're like, so did we make any progress? Did we get into the city yet? Did we fight? Did we make some weapons? What's going on? Oh, we just kind of walked around. Really? That's all you did? You kind of walked around? All right. Well, maybe we'll have better luck tomorrow. And then tomorrow happens. Once again, they do the exact same thing again. Once again, they make the lap, and at the end, they're just quiet. They go back home. Well, what about today? Why are you just walking around aimlessly? Nothing seems to happen, right? They did this for 6 straight days. 6 days of saying, I don't understand how me marching around these walls is going to get us inside the walls. You're telling us that Jericho is ours and we're doing this, right? So one could say, this isn't working. I'm going to have to bounce, right? But progress is not always obvious, right? God does this a lot. Does he not? He makes us wait. I don't like it, but he makes us wait for the promise, right? Think about all the times God used waiting to grow you in patience. I mean, God can just do it, right? So why doesn't he just do it, right? He has the power to give them the city. Why is he making them wait? Does it take faith if you don't have to wait? Does it take faith if everything just happened right when it said it? This is why we wait. This is why we hold tight to the promise to build our faith. I want to read a verse from the Message Bible in Romans 5, 2 verse 4. It says, by entering through faith into what God has always wanted to do for us, set us right with him, make us fit for him. We have it all together with God because of our Master Jesus. And that's not all. We throw open our doors to God and discover at the same moment that he has already thrown doors open of his own for us. We find ourselves standing there as we always hoped we might stand, out in the wide open spaces of God's grace and glory, standing tall and shouting our praise. There's more to come. We continue to shout our praise even when we are hemmed in with troubles, because we know how troubles develop passionate patience in us, and how that patience in turn forges the tempered steel of virtue, keeping us alert for whatever God will do next. In alert expectancy such as this, we're never left feeling shortchanged. Quite the contrary. We can't round up enough containers to hold everything God generously pours into our lives through the Holy Spirit. God, how beautifully stated is that? So, day 6. They're marching around. Once again, nothing happens. And it makes you wonder if any of these people decided to just call it quits then. Not knowing that day 7 was the day where they get to see the progress. Right? On the 7th day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner, except on that day, they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priests surrounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, "Shout! For the Lord has given you the city. The city and all that is in it are devoted to the Lord." Only Rahab, the prostitute, if you remember the story of Rahab, and all that were with her were the ones that were spared, because she hid the spies that they sent in. But keep away from the devoted things, right? So he's giving them these things, and he's saying this is what is about to happen. And then when the trumpet sounds, the army shouted, and the sound of the trumpet, the men gave that loud shout, and the wall collapsed. So everyone charged straight in and took the city, right? But what if they gave up before not seeing any progress on the first day, on the second day, on the third day? Right? Joshua didn't tell these people how long it was going to take, that it was going to take 7 days, right? What if they made it all the way to day 6 and they're like, this is not going to work, right? It kind of reminds me of the story of doubting Thomas. We went over at Christmas, right? When Jesus shows up to all the disciples, and Thomas, I guess, is on a store run or whatever, and he misses it. And then Thomas comes back, and they're like, "Thomas, Jesus is back from the dead. He came and visited us," right? And Thomas goes, "Yeah, right. I know you guys are just playing a trick on me. I tell you what, not until I put my fingers through his scars will I believe that Jesus has come back from the dead. I believe that you are faking me." And you're like, well, that's kind of messed up. Thomas is a disciple of Jesus. He knows that he was supposed to come back. You think he'd have a little more faith. But here's the thing, is he doubted for 6 days, but he stayed with the disciples. 6 days. He did not believe that Jesus returned from the dead, but he stayed. And on that 7th day, Jesus shows up and says, well, put your fingers here. Right through the scars. God is getting ready to show us something. We need to make sure that we're still there to see it. To not give up. To not stop at 6, because 7 could be tomorrow. Every time the Israelites made a lap around the wall, if like a few bricks were to fall, it'd kind of make it easier to have a little faith. I don't know how this is working, Jesus, but it seems like me strolling around the city is weakening these walls. But that's not what happened. Nothing happened. Nothing that made it look like the promises was being fulfilled happened. So they just kept walking. And they just kept walking. But faith doesn't work like that. We hold assurances that your promises is not going to be the first ever that God has broken, because he does not break his promise. It is because of that we march. It is that because of that we trust. And it is because of that we just don't give up. I don't want to see anybody stop short when the miracle is about to happen. Many of us don't know we're on day 6. Many of us don't know we're on lap 6. We feel like we're doing everything right because God said he was going to going to start to use us and mold us, and it seems like I'm just staying put. But God is about to show His power in your life. My friend J-Mac died without living up to the potential that God had set aside for him. He stopped short. He was on lap 6 and didn't even know it. His paperwork already got processed. He was the next man up. He didn't see the strings being pulled into the background. He just thought he was forgotten there. How many of us keep trying to do what's right and we're just not seeing any fruits yet? I feel like I'm doing everything. I feel like I gave my life to the Lord already, right? And I'm studying my Bible and I'm praying and I'm trying to just do better and live by His Word, and nothing is happening. This message is for you and me. It's like trying to get your life back only to feel like you're banging up against a wall, making no progress, that the wall isn't softening at all, right? It's trying to save money, and every time you seem like you have enough, some expense shows up, knocking you right back down. You could be on that last lap, and it looks the same as all the other ones. But the next one is when the walls are about to crumble. Does it take faith if you don't have to wait? If you're someone who's already stopped marching around the city, I feel like God's using this as a time to invite you back. Maybe you took lap 5 off, but come back, because this might be lap 6. He's asking you, pick up your ram's horn, start the marching, because there's going to be a time after the silence where the quiet gets completely replaced with a victory yell, a victory shout. Don't stop at 6. Keep going. God's trying to grow something with us. The wait has a purpose. And if I can get one thing across today, the wait is worth it. There's a God-given purpose for all of us, and the wait is worth it. I'm going to ask Lieutenant Kristen to play some music for a time of reflection. For one, we haven't done a call to salvation in a while, and I want to say that if you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ and you want to take this time, you could do it in your seat, but we also have the altar open to invite Jesus in and tell Him you're ready to start marching. Guys, watching J-Mac on the he's right on the cusp of everything that he felt God was wanting for, and to just give it up short. It had me in mourning. But then I remember seeing Lieutenant Christopher Potchick. This guy was a wreck when he came into the center. Former pro baseball player. He got delivered by the police, right? Straight from jail to that rehab. And then to watch what God did with him. And I remember him saying the same thing. It took Ryan Mayo, the first one of us, 13 months to do that 6-month program. He kept getting kicked out or started over. But he started marching again. This is our chance. This is our chance to not just invite Jesus into our lives, but this is our chance to rededicate our lives to Jesus. So as we spend a couple minutes in prayer, I just ask that you truly reflect on that. I believe with every fiber of my being, and I see the spiritual growth that is happening. But I believe that they got a purpose. I believe that some of you are called to wear this red. I believe that some of you are called to be soldiers, local officers. I believe that some of you are called to just be amazing Christians that bring people to Christ. But I know that there is a purpose, and God is just asking you to just do a little march. Keep the faith through the wait. Let's spend some time in prayer together.